the sickest people on the,
Okay,
we're the
how
top
can
of
you fight a
diabetes, top in.
revolution if you don't even know that there's a war going on? How do you fight one? Because I can show you the NFL and the NBA, those are the healthiest black people in America, and how many of them are fighting? So much for your dietary through guidelines being the end all and be all. The healthiest black people in the world are our professional athletes. How they doing for us? We need to be serious,
I
man.
disagree because they're on a Caucasian diet. They're on a Caucasian diet.
Okay, brother.
They're, meat.
All right.
Meat,
After we all go to Whole Foods, all go to Whole Foods, what we gonna do then?
Yo, go to your natural diet, man.
Get okay, after. No. You're having a coon out. You're having a coon out moment. You're cooning out. After we finish shopping, yes. After we finish shopping at Whole Foods, what are we gonna do after that?
From there, you start. You get with black organizations in your city. You start beginning to know how to fight. Get that fear up out of you. That fear of death. And respect, and you can't count your money sick. You can't shoot straight sick. You dig? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that.
You ever notice that there's a familiar pattern with the fake woke, and it doesn't matter what flavor of fake woke it is? I'm gonna use Cynthia G as an example, and this is like less than a month after complimenting Cynthia G. But she won't be the only example, because I'll eventually go into how people who are, and I consider Cynthia G to be someone who's wide awake in most regards. There are areas where the funk is fake. And I don't, at least with her, mean that as an insult. Because her weaknesses, put it like this, I think she's kind of reaching out. And she hasn't hit that midlife crisis yet, where you realize everything's bullshit except for results. And you're only going to get results if you aim for the big picture and you have large ammunition. You can't get results sniping a few people at a time. What really got me into this, though, was I've been back on Facebook lately. Facebook is crazy. Facebook basically banned me because I was using 2 fake names, which is crazy because how many people are really who use their actual name? So it wasn't about my name. It was about something else. They didn't really have anything that was concrete. I said, what the hell, I'll make another account. I'll put 42 tribes on Facebook again. And just because I'm curious about these groups. And I was in one of those Kemet and Hebrew Israelite groups. I want to see if they've progressed. The Hebrew Israelites are basically on the same dumb shit. What bothers me is insert newly woke Kemet dude, and you realize that they're on pretty much the same dumb shit. And Cynthia G's weakness, which I'll get to, is pretty much the same dumb shit. And really, I think it's the Kemetic fake woke that bother me the most. Because the Hebrew Israelites, everything, it's the end of the world. It's the whore of Babylon. And everything is going to hell because of porn. Like, they're basically just the African American answer to the white religious freak. And I wonder, where are they in the meta? And to be real, they may be closer to the meta than the fake woke Kemet dude. I'm talking to fake woke Kemet dude. And one thing I try to explain to these people is that religion is not the weakness. Religion is not the problem. I like to use two quotes, one from Brother Ankh, the other one from Neely Fuller. Brother Ankh would say African religion is food, clothing, and shelter. And I add to that. I said, and once you have all that established, when you have your infrastructure, your foundations and everything, and society is functional on some food, clothing, and shelter status, you have that covered, you can get into things that are more time consuming. You can go next is war to protect food, clothing, and shelter. Okay, once you get war covered, then you can get into anything, really. You can start making jewelry. You can start getting into theoretical particle physics. It's all the sciences of the deities of nature. There's another quote from somebody. It was some white dude, and he was just talking about, he mentioned that I'm learning military science and something else so my children can learn the liberal arts or something like that. You got to get the basics first. This is the thing I like about Kemet. That's the thing I love about Kemet, is Kemet gives you the basics to running a civilization like no other people in history. It's here, this is how you do it. And the reason why the Kemetic fake woke bother me more, like the young Pharaoh-esque people, is they miss that lesson. It flies way over their head to the point where if you tell them like, no, Kemet was religious. They sacrificed animals in the name of deities. You can't get much more religious than that. You have a fucking deity. You have a giant ass temple. You sacrifice animals. And here comes fake woke person talking about no 42. Those are metaphors. And I could show them from people that read the language. I could show them multiple sources. I could make a meme out of the way this guy just ran from questions, like basic questions. And he had Patan his name, but I don't even want to put him on the stage like that. Because I think he realized just where he was. And he didn't like it. It was just fake. Very fake. I'll go with more example. Then he said that it was a metaphor and that killing animals would be a sin and that they were vegans. So I showed him pictures of butchering. And I could have gone into more than that. I could have showed how the word Hotep is, how it's also used in reference to slaughter. Also used in reference to bread. I showed them butchering. There's so many examples. Like if you just search for Egypt and butcher. And this notion, this fantasy, it's really fantasy. It's escapism. And the Kemetic escapism, like I said, it bothers me more than other forms because the Black Power meta, when you look at Kemet, is right there for you. And you miss it because now you want to bash the Abrahamic religions and all that. Okay. But you're missing the point of religion. Because other quote, you have food, clothing, and shelter, right? How I add to it. And then once you get that established, you can have particle physics. Okay, you got that. The other quote, the Neely Fuller quote, is religion is a strong belief backed by action. Now, when you put it like that, and I can show you what these animist religions build, and I do call them religion because religion, by dictionary definition, is having a deity and believing in it and all that. Okay, if we're talking Kemet, even if the deities are metaphoric, they're still metaphoric for powers that actually exist, for things in the universe. And the sacrifices, you could, if you want to argue that there wasn't animal sacrifices, then you have to deal with the word sacrifice. Yeah. Or you could say that they were just having a ritual slaughter and all that to eat. Okay, I'll go with that. I'm not versed enough to argue against that. Matter of fact, I think that might be the case. I don't think it was one of those things where they would hold a chipmunk next to an altar and say, for the God, blah, 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 and we're going to send his soul so you can have this chipmunk. You know, I don't think it's like that. I haven't seen examples, but at least credible examples. Herodotus talked about it. Animal sacrifice. But Herodotus is end of Kemet. But then there are other examples, like animal sacrifice. I was like, hey, do you really want to lock that in? Do you really want to say that ritual slaughter of animals did not take place? Is that what you're saying? And I have one other question for him. I said, one other question. Since he has Ptah in his name, what did the priest of Ptah build? And it was deflection. And then the deflection and the big words, spirituality, big words, and the testament. And if you notice, like the fake woke Kemetic people, it's spirituality and respect the black woman. And they end up in a paradox. It's like, well, how do you respect the black woman? You have to get right spiritually. How do you get right spiritually? Well, you have to respect the black woman. Well, how do you do both if one is dependent on the other? Well, first you got to have the diet. Man, I might play a clip of this. This dude called in Jason Black. I'll play that clip first because it's a good segue. So now you know why I'm playing that Jason Black clip, because that's part of fake woke, the diet woke. Jason Black says, well, what about all these athletes? They're in great shape. And this dude's talking about where they're on the Caucasian diet. And my girlfriend asked me what a Caucasian diet is. I said, that's some nigga shit. There ain't no goddamn... First of all, there's no such thing as a Caucasian people. It's a mountain range. Who lives in the mountain range? The Caucasian diet. Really? He had no answers for that. Like, if being in shape is really important, blah, blah, blah. And you think all professional athletes have the same diet anyway? Some of them... Hey, if we want to talk about diets, Damian Lillard started the season off on a vegan diet, and he was playing meh. He switched back to his regular Damian Lillard diet, and he's been kicking ass. He's been playing like an MVP candidate, a top 3 MVP candidate since he got off the vegan diet. Now, maybe the vegan diet took a while to kick in. Point being, they're not all on the same diet, and there is no goddamn... What is a Caucasian diet? Wait, I can't even fathom that. I'm a jokester. I know I got one in there. What is a stereotypical thing that albinos classified as white eat? Other than chocolate fondue, I can't really say. Some fondue... Everybody eats pizza. You know, I guess would you really think Caucasian, just because of these notions that white people needed to go get polarized to become albino, because people have those misconceptions, you think like tundra moss and Yeti flanks. What else is, like, you think something really out there in the cold, you know what I mean? Like, so it's goofy. It is. Now, I'm not saying that we don't eat too much bacon. You know, white folks can digest bacon better. There may be some truth within. The thing is, they're not getting to a solution, because that's why I kept asking them, what did the priests of Ptah build? Because what they built, what all the priests built, is civilization. And that's one way to be productive, is to reform your church. Because that's what I'm always getting to, is why argue about religion when your religious institutions are dysfunctional? You know, for all the talk about porn, that's just a slippery slope, or never be satisfied argument. I won't say it's slippery slope. And that's the same thing you get from Cynthia G. With Cynthia G, it's like, it's always fighting against a fake reality. The reality is, I was listening to Cynthia G discussion with Robert. I think that's his name. Another YouTuber, a black dude. And according to Cynthia G, this is what she was saying: most black men abandon their kids. That's what she kept making it seem like. And then she would say, she would talk about how she doesn't think that most black women keep their kids away from their father, or keep their fathers away from kids, kids away from fathers. And I'm like, oh, she's missing it, because she's fighting against like her own daddy issues. She kind of admitted that, but she's missing the point. The majority of women, regardless of racial classifications, and the majority of men, regardless of racial classifications, are not doing that shit. They're not abandoning their kids, and they're not parental alienating. Does it happen? Yes, way too often. The difference is, and this is something that Robert didn't bring out and Cynthia G does not address, is you have laws for people who abandon their kids. You also have laws that incentivize parental alienation. So yes, it's true, most black women are not on the dumb shit, but as long as you have laws that incentivize one and prevent the other, then one is going to be a growing minority, in this case parental alienation, that's never addressed. We address fathers that abandon their kids, child support alone, alimony, because custody goes to women like 88% of the time. I think with black women, they even bumped it up to 90 from what I hear. It could be wrong, but I know it's not over 85. People would start making the case if it got down to where 15% of men had a chance, and we'd wonder, what are those 15% doing right? But they're missing the point. The point is, we've addressed one issue, and then she'll jump to that. Well, what about the interracial dating? I'm like, 85% of black men who marry black women. Do you need it to be 88%? What's the threshold? Where is it too much? Where is it just people finding odds ends relationships? That's going to happen. If you look at it case by case, you're going to find that there are people who are married to whatever. Like, they could be married not interracially, and they're still coons. Then you have people that are in a interracial relationship, and they're more practice woke, doing something woke. Like Byron Allen doing something. I'd rather give me 1,000 Byron Allens over one Jesse Lee Peterson, and Jesse Lee Peterson married his sister. They aren't together from what I hear, but now, does that mean I'm promoting swirling? Absolutely not. My problem with swirling is its promotion, not the 15% of black men and the 8% of black women. Because I realize that's relative. And if you handle big businesses, many other business, you handle business, then it'll make melanated men classified as black, as I'll use Yvette Carnell, descendants of slaves. It will make them more attractive to each other if you deal with business, like reforming your broken religious institutions. Great model for that, ancient Egypt. So I asked them, what did the priests of Ptah build? Because in being able to express what they built, then that is the action backing up the religion. Don't fool yourself. Ancient Egypt was very religious. And it's always got to be, fuck religion, spirituality. Show me what spirituality is done. I can show you what strong beliefs backed by action is done. That's how the world was built until the Abrahamic superpowers, and that was out of Africa, in Africa. Everybody was doing it that way. Yeah. It's always it's like the lazy person's argument. Gotta get our diet right. We gotta respect black women first. We got to, can't, no porn. And then like, oh, the Hebrew Israelites are so monkish. And I'm like, you don't respect black women by just arbitrarily saying, hey, do you respect black women? Like this post if you do. Like. Okay, we got a whole bunch of people that respect. No. That's not populist. That is what I mean by you can't just snipe problems one by one. You have to look at what is a real major populist thing to do. And it's to stop arguing about religion and reform the broken church. If you want an example of how to do it, look at monotheistic, or make that polytheistic. I always get them confused. Look at polytheistic cultures and how they have sciences associated with their deities. Do that with your monotheistic religions. Nobody's saying you can't. There's nothing stopping you. That is populist change. That's not sniping one by one. That's, okay, one church at a time too, but we're talking a church. You know, they got many people in them. That's why politicians go to the black church. Simple as that. You know, we know you can't mix religion. The rules say that you can't do it, that you can't mix religion with politics. We know behind closed doors that you're talking about politics, and it's a whole bunch of you. So that's who they go to. If you want to gear up society so it can handle business, so it can handle wars and food, clothing, shelter, to particle physics, mining, space travel, whatever, you reform the religious institutions in a way to where, hey, I don't care. At the end of the day, they can break bread and eat and have their metaphoric flesh and blood. Okay, they can do that. But what else are they doing? What else are they doing? Like, what did the priest of Ra build? What did the priest, let me throw in the rolled R, Ra. What did they build? What did these priests build? Why aren't you building temples, Kemetic people? I urge you to build temples to master science. And then you hear that other excuse. And this one you get from Hebrew Israelites. And you'll get it. It's also the young Pharaoh excuse for not knowing ancient Egyptian language, so he can just lie about it, is white science. Then you know me, I'm like, but I proved evolution 2 years ago. That's old news. You can prove evolution. You don't need no white folks to do it. But see, I don't go too deep into the evolution debate. What I do is I say, let's shut off this whole thing about white science, because I can prove evolution. Now, you might not accept my proof, but in this world, all we can do is run logical proofs, a series of if-then statements, if, and then you hit them with the then. That's pretty much all you can do. I realize what it entails. So I'm not expecting to change people's belief on how life diversified. So, you will not hear me argue too much about evolution, other than to say it's not white science, because, and don't throw out the old Darwin thing. Where do you learn taxonomy? But it's one of those things where you can understand it. You can take a step back and you can run experiments. That video I did, Black Neanderthals and Eurocentrism, that was a giant experiment. And I wasn't even doing it to prove evolution. It just, the results proved evolution. When you have all these pigment genes that cause albinism all throughout nature, causing black and white down to zebrafish, and it's not being reported because that would mean that the media would say that white people are effectively albinos, and the media is still too kids glovish with people classified as white, and I don't know how else to say it. And so I asked him again, what did the priest of Ptah build? This dude, after the whole big words and spirituality nonsense, respect the black woman, not respect the black woman enough to know what Ptah built so you can alter your economy in her name, so you can build for children. So, like, not objective power respect, arbitrary respect. After that, this dude just started posting poor transliterations. Couldn't say anything. So then he goes to the just Egyptian language gibberish. I could read it. It was like, and it was mixed in with some English, like Ankaket, Karaklet, and cat t-shirt. And I know enough of the words to where I could see that it doesn't make sense. Also, if you're going to post full Egyptian words and not the actual glyphs, because that's the next thing I did. I'm like, where did you get that lousy transliteration? He was done after that, because what he was doing was deflecting in a way to make me think that he knows the language, and I knew he didn't, because if he knew the language, he would know that meat was eaten in Egypt. They would know that there was no veganism. He would know what the priest of Ptah built. And he's not alone. That fake woke, that's a doctrine. That's one of the main issues I had with young Pharaoh fans, is these fools are talking about how the ancient Egyptians created pigs and how stars will align, which will usher in a new age of magic. I mean, that's not respecting the black woman. That is hella disrespectful to women and children. If you're a man doing that, look, if you're a female doing that, if you're a grown woman on some stupid shit like that, that is disrespectful to women, children, and men too. You are disrespecting yourself to be an dogmatic magical thinker. I'm kind of magical myself, but if you're going that far, that is so disrespectful to yourself, to your children, to anybody around you. Talk about how there's going to be a new age of magic. And they're just doing the same thing that Cynthia G is. You tell Cynthia G, hey, most men are not on that, most women are not on that, but men need to, some protections for the women that are. The next thing should not be, but what about all the dudes messing with white girls? Huh? So now you're saying if we gonna have some laws, hey, I'll go with that trade. If we're gonna have some child support laws, let's make it so it only involves black women. And that way dudes will not be messing with white girls if they're the only ones that can put them on child support. Hey, solved. Cynthia G and 42 have come to a solution to decrease Becky dating and satisfy black men. Isn't that wonderful? But no, that's See, the thing is, and this is the issue with the Hebrew Israelites, and I think I'll stop it after this, is the Hebrew Israelites can recognize some Hoe of Babylon porn or whatever and all that. But it always has to be end of the world shit, because to do something about that, to do something about janky females and child abuse, parental alienation, all that, men's rights as it applies to the stuff they're complaining about that I might agree with, to actually do something about that means that you got to stop living in the escapism fantasy world and get involved in politics. Hold the clipboard and get some signatures. They're out on the streets anyway. They're the main people that should be getting signatures and moving policy. But they're not, because why would I do that? I got a God. You know, all I got to do is pray with a little bit more enthusiasm, and I don't have to do all that whole shit. I'm not doing that. Hell you think? Man, I got a God, bitch. Bada bing. You see what I mean? That's the fake woke from many different angles. The Abrahamic fake woke, the Kemetic fake woke, the animist fake woke, the black female fake woke, really harboring some daddy issues, but she admits it. And like I said, for the most part, because I had a video hyping Cynthia G recently, I'm cool with Cynthia G for the most part. I'm cool with most people that are, that have the Kemetic names and all that. It's just that if it's all about this, young Pharaohism where there's no action, there's no sense of reform, it's arguing with people about, you can't prove God. Huh? You're Kemetic, dude. You got Ptah in your name. You're helling a God just off jump, dude. You can't be much more religious. You got Ptah in your name. You got a God in your name. So don't fake it. Be about it. Put the action behind your religion. Show me your temple of Ptah. Show me your Tupperware, pottery. Because then, that's the thing that bothers me the most about the Kemetic fake woke, like I said, is the black power is right on, it's in their name. They got a name like Hotep. And I know the Hotep nation is different. I've talked about them, whatever. I should call them the unfit to be called Hotep nation. You got me. So that's it. I'm just saying, be conscious of the fake woke. Okay? And understand that power came from religion. Religion did not start with Abraham. If you have priests and they are sacrificing animals in the name of deity, that's a religion. But like Neely Fuller said, those beliefs were backed by action in a system that is far more, just more efficient, far better than where our churches are, our mosques, anything in melanated neighborhoods. They are I won't say they're dysfunctional.